Game over.
Hello and welcome. We are back, continuing on with our Honey's Horror Review series, and we are currently reviewing the Halloween franchise. I am Braden, this is Blood Honey, and this is her first time watching Halloween 2018 in its entirety. I'm more well versed in horror, she not so much. Now, how did you feel walking away from Halloween 2018?
Okay. As a whole, I thought it was good. I thought it was a good movie. Definitely, I had some questions that you straightened out, but I still have lingering questions after the end. Yeah. I don't know what else there is to say. There can be a whole another couple of episodes of our show discussing the ins and outs.
Yeah, I mean, similar to Halloween H2O, that we all know after watching that one that went back and made itself a direct sequel to Halloween 2, where they were still siblings, and of course after the whole convolution of the plot and everything, they decided to do that. But then, of course, contractually, when Jamie Lee Curtis was on with that one, it got muddled, and it didn't really become the film she expected it to. And then they did Halloween Resurrection, followed that up, and then yeah, we all know what happened there. That put the franchise to sleep, and then we got the remake, of course, eventually, which happened, and then even those didn't go over so completely well. The first one more so did, the second one not so much. And so that put the franchise in another slumber for about 10 years at this point. And this is the 40th anniversary film. And so what they decided to do was that Danny McBride and David Gordon Green were approached to make a new Halloween film. And then they wanted to go to John Carpenter and kind of get his blessing to see what he thought about it. He said himself that he enjoyed it. And then they got him back as producer to do the music as well, so he came back and actually did the score like he did originally. And of course got Jamie Lee Curtis, so you have the star power there. Even Nick Castle, he was the guy who portrayed Michael in the original film, so there are a couple of shots in this movie where Nick Castle is actually dressed up as Michael, particularly the shot where she shoots the window and the glass shatters. That shot particularly is Nick Castle, that I can recall. So this is their sense of just want to go back and just bring the franchise back to its original form, which is a unique case considering that when after a remake happens, and that's kind of the end of the original timeline, you don't really see this kind of thing happen. But this is a rare case where you actually see them going back to the original timeline. Now, did you think that this was a good move on your part? Like, did you enjoy seeing it go back to this, or how did you feel about that?
Well, I don't know, because I love the couple of call outs that I saw. That was cool. And I don't know. It was confusing to me having seen all the other ones, and it just went back and forth and back and forth, and then this is supposedly a direct sequel in 40 years, and then I don't know.
She is just so lost about all of this right now because it's just been going so back and forth. She's practically getting whiplash watching these movies.
Yeah, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I did say a few times that if they were actually in like the original houses, but updated after the years, because you need to update your house once in a while.
Yeah, well, it like I said, it is still Haddonfield. Like, I don't know if it's, again, the exact same street as what the first one took place in, but it's still Haddonfield. And Yeah, I mean, because it's still again Laurie Strode. You know, it's working off that original movie, where she's still there and she's lived with the trauma and the obsession of Michael ever since that night, and so it's about her being, you know, a form of recluse and very estranged from her daughter and granddaughter because of the way that she brought her daughter up as being essentially a survivor, given what happened that night. And it's basically another like retro version of what she was in Halloween H2O, but a more like intense, like more elevated version
Not
of
as
that.
much of a
Yeah,
drunkard, I guess.
yeah. Did you, now comparing the two, did you prefer the Laurie Strode from H2O or the Laurie Strode
This
from
one.
this one? This one.
This one.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think both were good variations of the character. And this one, it makes sense because some have said, this movie, it was a major hit. It made a lot of money going back to the basics, and of course having the star power of Jamie Lee Curtis and just calling it Halloween, just running off of that. I mean, going about it this way, it's still kind of forcing in the whole Laurie Strode element. Of course, it playing off of them not being siblings this time, going back to the original intent
Yeah.
that Michael wasn't meant to be related. He is just pure evil incarnate, and then he just kind of goes about his business for the most part in his own territory. But it's really Laurie in this one that's looking for Michael that kind of propels their coming together sort of once again. So I can understand that. So bringing her back for this, I completely get. And her having the daughter and the granddaughter, it kind of sets up for that next generation. Like, okay, if they carry on after this, is it going to be the daughter kind of carrying on this legacy over the next couple of films? We don't know. Did you like the aspect of having the daughter? Did you enjoy Andy Matichak, I think her name is? Did you enjoy her in the role?
I suppose it was an interesting dynamic having it be like a family thing per se.
Mm-hmm.
But there's only so much more you can really do. Like in the other movies. I know this one kind of erased those other ones, but yeah, okay, he kind of can't die or whatever.
He's
but
very
literally,
resilient.
Jamie Lee Curtis isn't going to be around forever, and all these other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well. Yeah. That's the thing. It's we don't know what's going to happen next time because this is basically the start of a new trilogy. This one and the next one is going to be entitled Halloween Kills. It was slated to come out this October next month, but of course, because the outbreak and everything, they pushed it back because Jason Blum and Blumhouse, they wanted a theatrical release at Halloween, so they pushed it to next year. So that's when we're going to get Halloween Kills. And then Halloween Ends, it's meant to be the third installment, is meant to come out the following year. So assuming that's coming out in 2022. So we don't know. So Laurie could potentially, who knows, get killed off in the next one. Maybe the daughter will finish it off. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. So we'll get to that when we get to it. So for Michael himself, did you enjoy this Michael compared to the others so far?
I guess it was. Okay, it was like your average height Michael, I suppose. Decent height. It wasn't like a short looking dude.
No, I think he's taller than. Not as tall as Tyler Mane.
Yeah,
like,
no.
Tyler Mane's almost like 7 foot. This one,
that
I think,
was awesome. He did a good job.
Yeah, this guy James G. Courtney, who actually, in my personal opinion, is arguably the best Michael. He really kind of brings that original. It's really a good combination of the original with Nick Castle and Tyler Mane. That brutality, but at the same time that subtlety. He's just like in his very casual movement, but at the same time, really kind of hitting
like
you when he
turn.
Yeah. I mean, he really nailed it, especially that one track shot. It's very reminiscent, of course, of the original Halloween, where he's just going through the neighborhood. You have the music playing. I mean, he really kind of brings a whole new layer to it that we don't really see. As far as the mask, did you like this mask compared to the others?
I thought it was an interesting rendition. Better than some of them, that's for
Oh
sure.
yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I thought it was kind of neat, kind of a weathered look,
Yeah.
and it makes sense. So yeah.
Yeah, I would say it is as perfect of a recreation of the original, but aging it, which they did do in Rob Zombie's Halloween, and that mask we didn't really talk about, but the mask in Rob Zombie's film was actually really good, definitely the best one since the original. Even that weathered version, so it's kind of a combination of that. And this movie did have callbacks to other films. They did say that they were inserting elements from all of the previous films. So there's always like little Easter eggs. If you pay close enough attention, you'll know, like the masks from Halloween 3, the gas station scene from Halloween 4. That's pretty much that whole sequence with the reporters and all that stuff that happened. And even the bathroom stall scene, that's very reminiscent of H2O. So there's a lot of moments in there. There are callbacks to all the Halloween films.
I think my favorite was the three kids walking and they're having a conversation like, what about them being related? Like, nah, that's just like a legend or whatever. I'm like,
Yeah, I mean that was
I
in
see
the
what you did
yeah
there.
that was in the trailer when it initially came out. I mean,
I don't remember it. Yeah.
yeah, but that lets you know, like, pretty much like right off the bat, like, this is what we're doing. Like, that timeline, that didn't happen. They're not related. Damn it. It's like, yeah, just completely wiped away. Yeah, I mean, and I think that like moments like that were a cool like little way to let you know that, yeah, this is what's going on here. Some
Yeah.
others were more force for some people, like when she says like, oh, you're the new Loomis. It's like more like on
Yeah.
the nose.
I know. I'm
Sort of
like,
things, and-
That guy was.
Yeah.
That guy was interesting. I
Yeah. So
suppose.
did you like Sartain in this at all, or what you feel? How do you feel about that?
I I I don't know. I'm still
Yeah.
OG Loomis. You know.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, you can't really beat him at all.
Yeah. It was all right, but I guess
He's-
he got his. So.
Yeah, he's kind of like the anti-Loomis, really. It's pretty much what I mean, he's doing the opposite as to what Loomis would want for there to be the deal with Michael just being on the loose and killing everyone. And yeah, it's pretty wild what happens there. Again, some people are very split on how they feel about that. I'm kind of because he does kind of like propel the plot forward just to get Michael to the spot where Laurie's house is, so it is kind of forced to get Michael from point A to point B, sort of deal. So I mean, there are elements throughout this movie that are a bit forced, but at the same time, there are also a lot of other things that I feel like are a good natural way to kind of bring the franchise back. Like, I feel like this was the most natural thing to do to bring it back to its roots, considering it's been 40 years, and to give yourself a new, fresh direction to go in, but playing off of what came before it. And one thing about his death, which you thought was just like a pure, just... The funny thing about that is, I need to point out that I thought about recently, having rewatched Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, is that considering how brutal those films were, and how big that Michael really was, and how brutal he was, isn't it kind of funny that he kicked the dude's head in, and it didn't...
Just one stomp.
Several
Pow.
stomp. It took him several stomps though, and even then it didn't completely bust in on itself. But in this one,
No.
Michael gets it in one stomp. Done. And I realized that I'm like thinking, like, if you're gonna flip logic, that should have happened in Rob Zombies, and that one should have happened in this one when you really break it down.
Yeah. It was interesting
Yeah.
thinking about not just that,
Mm-hmm.
but as a whole, this, 60 some odd year old dude doing these kills, strangulations,
Yeah.
goodness, the one kid on the fence
Mm-hmm.
and, well, yeah, the curb stomp.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was,
Yeah, I couldn't help but
mind-boggling.
think that. I'm thinking, like, wait, like, those should really have been
How
flipped
did he
around.
do-
Because they definitely upped the ante in terms of, because since it is a direct sequel, the original film, like I said, I mean, he was very hands-on, but it was mostly just the simple strangulations and the stabs, and they keep it in the realm of like realism for the most part, but it is just that extra factor of just like brutality to it, and that's just one thing in particular where they just probably barely crossed over that line, just been like, might be a bit much for some, But it is still kind of cool though when it happens. So, I mean, it's,
Yeah, some of it might have been like technical off-screen kills, but
yeah.
you know, the ones you do see or saw kind of thereafter, you know, like the kid on the fence kind of was in the shadows, or the boyfriend of the babysitter. Yeah, that was that was pretty cool. An interesting little twist on a callback, you know, in itself.
Did you feel that this was a proper climax for this movie? Like, did you enjoy the whole house trap setup? Like for Laurie to, you know, go this route with, you know, her whole survival instinct thing and trapping Michael.
Well, I gotta say that whole house setup was pretty slick. The mannequins gave it a little bit of a creep factor, but you know, target practice.
Yeah.
The hidey hole under the island thing was cool, and obviously, yeah, all the other bells and whistles. And then I'm like, well, what the hell are they gonna do? He kind of ripped the island thing off of there, and then they flipped the switch thing, and the bars come together. Like, damn.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, she was ready for his ass. She wasn't playing. 40 years of prepreparation will do that to you.
Yeah, that's why I was like, all right, she knew what she was doing. I don't know, because thinking about the occurrences in the other movies and this, I'm like, well, duh, he's not dead. But what else are you gonna do? Because you can't just keep going and going and going.
No, I mean,
going because it was cool though, I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, like you said, I mean, a franchise like this, I mean, if there's a chance for them to bring it back, they will. Again, I feel like this is the most logical step they could have taken. And I mean, they have their trilogy set for what. So in total, it would, for this timeline, it would be a total of 4 films. And then wherever they go with this, exactly how they plan to end it, that would be the big question, because we got 2 films to really get to that answer. I mean, but again, it's having Michael been captured that same night and him being held captive for all that time and the Laurie obsession. I mean, to me, it works. I mean, I can't really say anything too much about it. It's just, again, if you want to really like nitpick at certain things as to like, is it too forced? Perhaps in some cases, but as far as really putting those 2 back together on screen, it's the most logical way to make it work, in my opinion. And so it doesn't necessarily give Michael the forceful motivation to have to go after Laurie, but more so Laurie going after Michael. Now, as far as the bus crash, is this last like little bit, what do you think happened there? Do you think that was Michael? Do you think that was
the faux Loomis?
Well, the bus crash itself, like what caused it? Yeah.
I think it might have been a combination of the two. Like, something triggered someone, and then that kind of let like Michael get loose and, you know, cause his thing to happen. So, you know, I don't know, but obviously you can see that a mile away.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about the idea that, you know, watching this movie, considering everything that Laurie's talked about, and considering, you know, by sheer chance, of course, that, of course, on this day, you know, fate would have it that the bus driver was drinking that day and he screwed up. You think the idea that Laurie potentially caused the crash to let Michael out just so she can have the satisfaction of killing him? Do you think? I mean, because if you look at it, when she went to dinner, she seemed rather distraught, like she effed up, and she had said that she wanted Michael to get out, and then that can kind of play into plot lines later on with like, hey, it was me that did it. You know, that could,
I don't know. I guess I'm
you
gonna have to see the other ones to really.
Because I feel like
that.
there's room for them to do that if they wanted to. If they wanted to do that, it's right there for them
That'd
to pick
be
that.
weird.
Maybe,
I don't
maybe,
know.
but I feel like it could add some interesting kind of tension and is playing on the element like this didn't need to happen, but your obsession led you to this and it screwed every. I don't know. It's just there. It's just there. I'm just pointing it out. Uh, so final thoughts. Did you enjoy this one? And would you say you like it more than most others, or?
Better than several for sure. Yeah, it was a pretty neat movie as a whole, and yeah, we'll see what the other ones bring, I suppose.
Yeah, for me, I think it's pretty solid. I don't think it is perfect. I still think the crown still goes to the original. There are some things there are some things they could have done. Probably better writing side of things. But I feel like moving forward, when we get to Halloween Kills, everything I know so far, it seems like it could be a pretty solid movie. It sounds pretty exciting, as far as I'm concerned, but we shall see. I would rank this one probably about a solid 3.5, maybe a 4. It's definitely a nice return to form, having all the original pieces back in place. Going back to the roots. The mask looks great. James G. Courtney absolutely dominates as Michael Myers. I would say arguably the best Michael. Jamie Lee Curtis does give a really good performance. I will give her that. Judy Greer at times, though, probably is a little bit odd, to be honest. She was kind of weird with some of her dialogue delivery at times, I would say. I liked Hawkins, though. Hawkins, I thought was very good.
He's a good actor.
Yeah. Overall, definitely. And a lot of people thought that killing him off, I mean, we'll see if he's truly dead, but yeah, killing him
Kinda
off was
looked
probably
like
a bit of a mistake, though, because I felt like he could definitely add that element, which I said in the Rob Zombie films of what Brad Dourif brought, is to really kind of bring that likable, grounded sheriff role, someone to help root for, that kind of help drag this along. But I don't know. He seems pretty jacked up, so we'll see what happens there. All in all, a solid film, and I look forward to what they do next with Halloween Kills coming in 2021. Could have been next month, but no. Some things just of all the things to stop Michael, it's that. Anyway, that is our review of Halloween 2018, and that will cap off our Halloween review series for Honey's Horror. We will be moving on to more than likely Friday the 13th, which the box set will be out next month, and so I plan on taking her through that gauntlet of films, and that should be oh so fun. We will see you next time. Bye for now.